So in this video we'll look at decimal multiplication. So we can use a graph sheet for this. We have already introduced, I'm assuming, decimals in a graph sheet, because you can represent, let's say, 1.5 as one full box and then half a box. So, and we've started with talking about, of course it is a length, but you can also define it as an area, and the reason for doing that as an area is that then you can get 100 squares in a little square sheet, so you can go up to 2 decimal places. So that's the advantage of using something like area to define a decimal number, because in that case you get this, which is one box, to represent one square, to represent 1. And then the first decimal point are the rods, so that is equivalent to the tens. That is the first decimal point, and the second decimal place is just a small square, 1 square. So that gives you 1. There are 5 of these, so then you have 5 of these, which is 0.5. There are 5 of 0.1s, and if you had more, of course you could show them with smaller numbers. So that's how we have been representing decimal numbers. This connects well with what we have done before with Dinice cubes, because this is the area of a Dinice cube. If you put the Dinice cube on it, this will be the area you get, 1 square centimeter. And it's also relevant because it is actually giving you the units in square centimeters. So you're continuing to measure things that are correct and relevant and so on. Okay, so now this is, let's say 1.5 is what we started with. And in order for this video, because we won't be able to see very well, I'm going to draw it a little bigger, and I'm just going to label it. So let's say we do on a scale of a slightly larger, and let's see how it works. Okay, so let's say I have a number and I want to do a multiplication of it. First we'll take numbers that will become whole numbers. So let's say 2.5 times 2. How can we see the 2.5 times 2? So okay, let's see if we can see this. This is 2 squares. Okay, and let's start using, I should just have used different colors. Okay, so let's say the full boxes are like that. The rods are represented like this. So when I say 2.5 times 2, I am saying 2.5 on one side. Multiplication is area, we know that. So 2 on the other side, that's all. So when I complete this, what I get is that I have basically 4 boxes, 4 whole boxes. This I can see very clearly. And then I have 2 other boxes. I mean, this plus this will give you 1 more box. So I am going to get 5, and I can see it, and I can count the number of squares. When the number of squares reaches 100, it's a full square. Or once the number of rods reaches 10, it is also a full square. So there's a 0.5 here and a 0.5 there. 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. So this is the first kind of multiplication that we will see. You will multiply with a whole number, and it's possible it may be a whole number or it may not be a whole number. So let's say we had 3.7. So now again 1, 2, 3, and then you have 7. So that's of course the 5, and then there is a 6, and then there is a 7. Okay, so that is your 3.7. Again, if you had multiplied it into 2, again you would have got a 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. Okay. So this is 3.7 times 2. The number of whole squares that you can see obviously is the 6. Then you have the 2 greens together, the 0.5 plus 0.5, that will give another 1. And then you have these 0.1s plus 0.1, 0.2 times 2, which is 0.4. So this will give you the expected 7.4. Okay, so you can, the multiplication is of course done the same way, which is you can multiply 37 with 2 and put a decimal point at the end, and that's fine as well. But they can also see that it works out exactly as it would have worked out if you had done 37 times 4 or 37 times 2. This will also work out, and it's probably worthwhile at this point to introduce the Diniz cubes and see the comparison of the two. Okay, so that would be like, this is a tens, right? So that's 37 times 2, so that's the tens, that's 60, and then you will have 7, so that's 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, sorry, you can't see that also, okay. So we had done it like this, right? The 5s, this together gave you another 10, and this gave you 4. So it is the same, whether you multiply it first with numbers and then you put the decimal point or otherwise. The important thing to notice, of course, rods becomes plate, plate becomes rod. So that part is going to be a little different here, because you are working with a single square being the unit, and that's why it doesn't look the same, right? You're not putting hundreds here, because there's one decimal place off, not two decimal places.